Hey guys, so one, two, three, and we're live. So what are we going to talk about today? I think one of the interesting story from my life, which can be spoken about here, would be how did how did my first company, ended up in a spectacular failure. So I want to tell my part of the story, and I want to let you know that all intents and purposes I'm not a successful entrepreneur, yes, and everyone wants to be. I also wants to be, and everyone dreams to be a successful entrepreneur. And it for me it's a journey, and I haven't cracked the code yet. So I haven't made a single dime out of my any of my companies. So let me tell you what did I do and how did I start the company and all the stuff about. Yes, so I think this story might relate to most of you. And why does it relate to most of you? Because it it was my first company right out of my college. And everyone who is, you know following up to be everyone who wants to be an entrepreneur, they will think uh, they will think of starting the company right out of their college itself. All of our all of us are filled with so much confidence. When we are in the college, we can think that we can conquer the world, and I was one of those guys too. And I also wanted to become a successful entrepreneur, and I want to create a company. And what was the company? Let me talk about a little bit about the company itself. So in my last uh, in my last 2 years, I started tinkering with the microprocessors, and especially Arduino platform. So Arduino is a microprocessor platform where you can have this chip and you can play with programs. You can combine smaller hardwares similar to LEDs and switches and lights, all those things, and you can write a code, simple code, and it can do some magic and tricks on those hardwares. You can turn them off, and you can read the readings from the sensors. Many things you can do it, and that would be the gateway for all the electronic engineers who wants to build sensors and devices who can essentially communicate with the apps. So that's how I started. And one of my first project was to turn the LED bulb on and off. And I still remember that while doing this, we actually uh, we may couple of fuses went off while experimenting with this circuitry and all these things. I I specifically is I was from information technology major, so it's similar to computer science major back in India. And I had no experience with dealing with how to create the circuits and all those things. Yes, circuit boards, and how do you connect those relays to the microprocessor controller using the registers and all the stuff. I wasn't completely aware about all these things. So while experimenting with things, we blew up a couple of fuses, and that's a fun memory. So I think uh, my last year of the my last year, we have to do a thesis on a project. And it's like you you have worked not worked actually, you have studied for 3 years, in this a field. And now last 6 months, a colleges in India gives you a project. And the last semester would be you have to write something, or you have to create an app, or you have to create a software, anything you can think of, using whatever the tools and technologies you have used and learned during your uh, educational period. And what I thought was, why don't I just build out something using this Arduino framework, microprocessors and mobile apps. Why can't I combine both of them? Why can't I combine a cell phone and this microprocessors, and try to actually turn on the equipments within my home, lights, fans, just try to turn them on and off. I just wanted to control those physical devices using my phone, and it was quite an interesting idea for me. So that's what I focused on my last year. And uh, during this last semester, uh, I was also trying to find talented people, who can actually do this things with me. So first thing is like, in my circle, I tried to pitch this idea to a lot of friends. So the friends who were actually trying to tinker those things with me, I tried to pitch them that try to why don't we try to make a full software out of this, yes, and then maybe some point of in the future we can try to sell it to someone. And none of them were interested in doing this, because all of us were the first bread earners uh, we were the first bread earners from our families. So thinking of doing this, creating a company would be a huge risk for us. If we don't succeed, then where would we get the money from, and how would we feed our families? So I think that was one of the main concerns of all of my friends, and that was the huge, demotivating factor for them to not embark on this future. Yes. So so now I was the only one guy, and then I come back to my hometown. I'm trying to talk to several friends, and then one of the friends who is not from my college, from my childhood. He was talking to me that I know a guy, he's from another college, and he has developed something similar to this things which you are trying to do, and uh, he has done some experimentations. So right out of there, I thought that okay, this is the guy for me, and I have to meet him, and then both of us can do something together. So then I met the guy, and then we started working on this first idea. So the first thing was, write a mobile app, yes, plus write a circuit or create a circuit which can control basically uh, fans and lights. And all we had to do, or prototype, all we had to do was turn them on and turn them off. And I pitched my professor in the college that this would be my last year project. And um, then time goes on, and then I go present this software to uh, my professors when I was graduating. And what happens during this time is, in India, the colleges invite different professors from the different universities, so they can just stop by here, and then they can judge the students, how they have how they have performed in their field, and they rank uh, they rank the student that uh, software is good or not, and they ask the questions, how did they do it, and all these things. So it was my turn. I um, I set up a demo. I had a small circuit board, and I had this whole equipment with me, and uh, I had glued some bulbs onto the electronic circuit boards, and I had my app open, and then I start my demo, and I showed them that uh, this is an app where I can just turn the bulbs on and off, and this is what I have done. So the first thing this professor asked me is that, uh, essentially, you have wasted the 4 years of your life, you know, and instead of writing and creating a software similar to library management or something else, you are showing me that you have this you have this you have this app. You can just turn the lights on and off. So I was hugely disappointed, because a professor, he was a senior professor from a different college. He didn't see that the app itself was a software. And I think this is in 2012. Mobile was a huge thing back in India, because it was before the internet era. Um, and I was just surprised that he don't think that the mobile application is a software. He doesn't think that the software which is running in this motherboard and this microprocessors is also a software. The bootloader which is controlling all these things is a software. And I just thought, screw it. I don't think so this professor understands me, and I didn't get an A. So uh, I uh, I was really angry. I stamped out of the I stormed out of the room, and then I went back to my hometown, and I just told my friends, let's create a company. We have to prove this guy's wrong, that this is a real thing and we can make some money out of it. So now we formed a team. There were four founders, and all four of us were trying to build a software where we can digitize the home. So this is a home automation project where our vision was that we can essentially control all the appliances of your home through this mobile phone, and that's what we are trying to pitch to investors. So initially we had some little bit of money, and one of the founders was trying to get the money from lenders. We were actually trying paying 20% interest on that money. How it will come a later part of the story, and we were actually running out of the money, and then we were trying to approach so many investors that uh, please, we have this beautiful software, it would work, and it would lot of people will be invest lot of people will be interested into this home automation thing, that they would pay for it. And right now we are seeking some money, so we can try to write more, we can try to complete the software, and we are trying to build the circuits, yes, and that circuits needed an experimentations, we needed a microprocessors, and there were so many different components we needed. So we needed some seed money uh, from some wealthy guys, so we can complete this project. So it was huge disappointment for us that none of them were interested in or none of them were interested in this idea, so they were willing to invest into this thing. You know, a couple of responses we got was, "You guys are talented people. Why don't you create some consulting company where you write a software for someone else, and don't worry about finding a work. You know, I have some relatives who is working on these big companies, and I can find a work for you. You guys just work, write a software. We will make a profit, and I'll I'll take the 60% of your company, and you guys keep a 40%." So that was his pitch. Another responses which we got was, uh, "This is cool. This is a cool neat trick, but could you do it for $200?" And $200 means he had this big house, and he visited our office and he told me that, uh, "Could you do this? Uh, can you make my entire home digital with a $200?" And we obviously says it's impossible for us to make this cheap, because we are fighting for uh, we are fighting for uh, some money so we can keep these projects alive. And these were a couple of responses we got from a lot of people, and I realized, that this is not working. Our cash flow is drying out. We have no money to pay. We have no penny to pay ourselves or to anyone. We were the first breadwinners from our families, and we had to find something. If we don't do it, it would be very bad for our families. And what we ended up doing was, uh, we pivot. And didn't I listen? Listen, guys. I didn't know about this pivot concept. After 6 years, 8 years now, I know this concepts pivoting, like a lot of startups do. But back then, I realized, how would I make a money right now with my current skill sets? And the only thing I knew was, I can code. If I can find someone uh, who can give me some money so I can write the software for them, then that would be good for me. So couple of family friends reached out to some people, and then they found out that one of the family friend needed a software for their own mechanical industry. So they told us that, we have this requirement, and can you build a software for us? So I think that was the first gig we got, and we completed. Also, we were over there pretty hopeful. We thought we would be able to complete the software in 1 month, but it actually took 3 months to complete that project, and we got paid $1,000 for that software. And along the line, since we were reaching out to multiple people for the software developments, now actually we were doing the consulting, whatever the TCS and Wipro and all those companies are doing. So this is what we were trying to do. And now, since we reached out to a lot of people told us that, can you try to build enterprise software for us? Can you build accounting software for us? Someone wanted to maintain the ledgers and um, balance they wanted to keep balances and stuff secretly, so they said, can you build the secret diary for us? So and then one of the software requirement we had was construction, so we wanted to maintain the resources and the human using using some digital software, and can you build this out for us? So we had a lot of requirements, but no one was willing to pay money upfront. So what we did was, I sent a word out in a small town. I was from a small town, and then a couple of graduates and students drove by to our small office, and we started paying them. We had nobody to pay ourselves, and we hired a bunch of folks. I think it was 7 people, and we got the money from our lenders at a 20% interest to pay these employees. I didn't initially realize this. I wasn't doing this all the calculation. I was just thinking, oh man, we have so many softwares. We are going to develop them. We are going to sell to so many people, and we'll be rich. I was naive back then, and when 6 months went by and we were still ramping up the softwares, and the initial people who gave us the recommend, they were just they were just saying it for the sake of it. We need this software, but they weren't actually willing to pay the money for it. Now we have something up. We tried to sell it to someone else, but no one was ready to give us money at all. And since we got the first payment from the family friend, of $1,000, uh, one of the question came up from one of my co-founder was, dude, now since we have some money, we have to pay lenders back. We are borrowing $5,000 to $10,000 at a 20% interest monthly. It's a monthly interest, guys. So I I hunkered down. I did some logic, I did some math, and found out that we have no money to pay these guys, and we don't. I don't see in a distant future how would we able to pay them. So I decided we have to close these guys. And one of the reasons why we were under the uh, one of the reasons why our board was sinking is that we had no money. We had 4 talented individuals, and 2 founders were not interested in doing the software development. One was interested in doing the automation stuff which we were doing, home automation, and I was the only one who was actually trying to actively develop the softwares. Now, uh, in order to fill the vacuum for those 3 resources, yes, I tried to hire more people, and we started paying them. And think about this: our ship was sinking. We didn't see it. Ship was already sinking. Then I hired a bunch of more passengers and onboard them into my ship, and now ship was sinking rapidly. So it just blew up in 2 months. Everything just blew up in 2 months, and we realized we have to pay this debt to our lenders, and we have nothing to show up for. And I basically told my founders, guys, we have to stop this, and we have nothing to show up for, even in a remote distant future, within 6 months, and no one is ready to invest into any of our ideas. So how would we pay anything to anyone? And that's where the story ends, guys. And I just break the news to all the employees that, guys, we don't have uh, anything planned for it, so we have to let you guys go. So we scrambled some money, at the last moment to pay these guys. We were paying them 7,000 rupees. If you try to calculate them in dollars, it would be $100 in today's currency. We were trying to just pay seven employees $100, so it would be a $700 a month payment to our employees. And we scrambled that money. We paid somehow to these guys, and I still remember that the 2 employees, we told them we have nothing, guys, and we actually didn't pay 2 employees $200. So we still owe them money, and that's a sad story. And this is how I failed at a company. We had a so so this is what I want to tell you guys, that you guys, I'm just trying to share my story here. If you are doing something similar right now, take some lessons from this, and do your do your due diligence when you are trying to hire the employees, and be smart, and learn from my failure that you are not doing the same mistakes which I did back then. So this was my story, and I would have to tell you guys that this one bad experience, it actually diminished my confidence so much that it took me another 7 years to uh, start think start thinking about entrepreneurship, just because back then, I wasn't financially secured. So I had to first clear that I am the sole owner. Back then I was the sole owner of the family, and I had to build up the enough cash flows that even if I wanted to do this again, my family should not be deprived of this benefits. So this one setbacks can delay your entrepreneurship journey for more than half a decade. Yes, so be smart and learn from my mistakes or learn from others' mistakes. Over the internet, there are so many people has written down their lessons learned from the failures. There are so many startups has published their own. I didn't know back then. I was very limited. I wasn't actually doing. I was even. I was even in. I was not even in a social media. Not that much active. I was not talking to anyone. I was not writing. I was not writing, and I was not reading blogs and all these things on the startups. I didn't even knew that the a new company like us could be considered as startups. I just thought that it's just another company. When even I failed, I didn't know the term bankruptcy. So that was my situation. So think about how naive I was that I could do something big without understanding all these things. So the first thing for you guys would be learn all these things. What is a startup? What is a company? How does all these things work? How can you form a company? What part of what things are involved in the company? Read some smart books. Who has read some smart books? People has wrote down on on these topics. Forming a company, hiring an employees, on all these things. You have to learn all these things if you want to become a successful entrepreneur. Yes. So that's my lessons from my failure. Yes, and that was my story, guys. Let me know if you guys like this. Give me a comment here, and subscribe, and that keeps me going here. And and let me know, did you guys like this story or not? Yes, and I should do some of more things. uh, I should think about more stories from my own life, and should be publishing soon. Yes, so bye guys.